tracking it, and you.
Yes.
What was the toll? I mean, what do you think is was there a financial toll?
Well, I think that the Los Angeles economy alone probably lost in excess of $1 billion, maybe more. I do think the strike ended actually well. I think that to their credit, I think the directors and writers, the directors weren't out on strike, but the directors settled first, and they were the ones that set the template for then what the writers ultimately accepted, and that had to do with, as we talked before, how you get compensated on these things like iPods and streamed videos
Absolutely,
and
right.
new media, and it's an area we really don't know how it's going to be monetized yet, if it's going to produce big revenues or not. Producers were reluctant to give anything, at least more than what had been done before. The writers and directors and actors, they haven't settled yet, by the way. The actors are still out, not on strike, but their
They're
contracts.
still negotiating. Their contracts
They
are
actually
coming
haven't
up.
started negotiating yet, but their
that's
contracts.
the Screen Actors
The Screen
Guild,
Actors
right.
Guild said, no, we don't want to be left in the sidelines. We want to be in the mix. And so the agreement provided the directors and the writers with a piece of this new media revenue. And it's too complicated to get in.
Right.
But it was a short-term contract, 3 years. So the issue is going to come up again in 3 years. But to the writers and directors got a recognition that this new media you ought to be compensated for. And the producers, I think, got some recognition that this is not a bottomless pit, and it has to be reevaluated.
Well, they had to get back to work. It was beginning to hurt the industry.
Yeah, no question about it. Television, particularly. Yeah, movies take a long enough time to advance with everything else.
Right, the movies in the theater. But don't you think when something like this happens, it just casts a pall over the whole? People lost interest in movies, it seemed to me.
I don't think the box office didn't show that they lost interest in movies, no. I mean, people watched less television, or the amount of television that was on was different.
Right.
I mean, reality shows tended to pick up the slack, and I think
but when you don't have a Golden Globes, when the Oscars are in question, that has an impact that's felt at
my
the
guess
street
is
level.
that if this would have gone on much longer,
Right.
it would have had a real impact.
Right.
And I think the studios were largely led by two CEOs. One is Bob Iger from Disney, and the other was Peter Chernin from News Corp. And they kind of took the lead at getting this done. And I think there was the feeling like we can't let this go on forever. I mean, economically, probably again the companies are so large and diverse that there wasn't necessarily a reason to end it tomorrow just because of the economics to the studios. But I think the recognition was we did not want to let this go on forever.
So did Jack Valenti give you any tips on going to the Oscars?
No, not on going to the Oscars.
Or did you just go into it without guidance? You now, how many Oscars have you gone to?
We've been to every one since I've been here, so this will be our fourth one.
So what have you learned?
Get there early.
Get there early.
Yeah, and...
Are you still starstruck?
I mean, it's like, I would say that what's fascinating about it is this love affair Americans have with celebrity. It's just extraordinary. And you get there, and what's more interesting for me to watch is the public, not the celebrities, because how the public looks at the celebrities.
Screaming at you and saying, "Get out of the way, I'm trying to get so-and-so's photograph."
Well, no. I don't know, that hasn't happened yet.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad. What do you wear?
I wear a dark tux.
You don't have a stylist come and show you 5 different tucks, and you just choose between
But they
the
do
Armani
ask.
and the
It is
Versace?
interesting. They do ask, like my wife would go with me, and
Rhoda.
they ask her, "What do you wear? Where'd you get the dress? Oh, those lovely earrings. Where did you get that?" And so that's a big part of the thing. That's why people wear. A lot of, I don't know about, my wife buys her own stuff. I presume not everybody who goes through that red carpet owns their own stuff.
Way, then.
Yeah, but there's a lot of advertising that goes along with it.
She's supposed to connect with somebody early on who starts providing her with jewels and gowns and shoes, and then she has to read from a little card. But have you ever asked for anybody's autograph on the red carpet?
No.
Oh, wow. Have you been a presenter yet?
No. Jack presented for years, and then he stopped presenting, and
how are you working that? Don't you want to be a presenter?
I can't tell you how I'm working it. So,
But you're working it.
Well, we'll see.
Well, are you going to be presenting this year?
No.
Well, we should start a write-in campaign
right.
to, is it Gil Cates? And please have Dan Glickman present.
I'll get you the email address later
Thank
on.
you.
All right.
Does this mean then that you're denied a swag bag?
Well,
Or do they send you one just out of courtesy?
no, there are there are a multitude of events where they have
Okay.
swag bags, but that's kind of overrated too. I guess if you're a hotshot star
Yeah.
award winner, maybe they're bigger than they used to be.
George
But
Clooney.
when the IRS basically said they were
That
looking
did
at the
change it,
value
did-
of the bags for the purposes of your income
Yeah.
tax purposes, that I think that had some
But,
impact.
but in the time before the IRS weighing in, did you get anything really
No,
outrageous?
no,
Oh,
no.
that's a disappointment. So no doubt you've been to see all the movies.
Yeah, I've seen most of them.
Are you politically allowed to have a favorite?
Well, certainly
Or do you
internally,
have to
I
have
have.
6 favorites?
Yeah, no, I would say that this time, I mean, I'm not going to tell, I was able to vote, so I voted for
Yeah.
a movie, but I think there are a lot of good movies this year. I think that the interesting thing this year is most of the movies are, in the last couple of years, have been the specialty divisions of the studios,
Yeah.
the Focus Films, the Paramount Vantage, the Fox Searchlight, and so most of these
These are the
Miramax.
indies. These aren't the indies.
Well,
These are
they're indies, but most of them are affiliated with the
Right.
major companies now
Right.
because they've been bought and they have distribution possibilities. And so the movies that are up are by and large have been critically reviewed very well.
Are they all member pictures?
I'm trying to figure out. I think they
Juno,
are.
There Will Be Blood, Atonement, No Country for Old Men, and Michael Clayton.
They're all member or affiliate through the like Miramax, for example, is owned by Disney, so it's not a direct member.
And you get invited to Morton's?
You mean for the Vanity Fair
For-
party?
right, right.
But there's not going to be one this year.
What are you going to do?
Go to bed.
I mean, what's the point of going all the way out there if you're not going to be? But has there been an actor or actress that like really, when you got home that evening, you said to Rhoda, "I can't believe I just met so and so."
Well, I mean, first of all, it's like
You're over that?
It's like I've lived long enough to know that everybody's pretty much the same. Notwithstanding the quote glamour in this thing, but we had a program last year at Hollywood in Washington,
Right.
and it's curious. We invited and we had 2 basic stars come. One was Will Smith, and
Yeah.
he was just terrific. I mean, he was amazing. He talked about his personal experience, and he talked about when he goes around the world, the power of movies, how they affect people's lives, and he talked really from the heart, not phony,
Yeah.
flat, but really substantive. And then we gave an award to Clint Eastwood, who is a quintessential, deep roots, thoughtful, sensible, and not flashy type person. So those are what I tend to look for are those people that have some permanence to them, and those are the people that I like the best.
Those are the people you get
Yeah.
a kick out of. The 2 films that I believe are the front runners for the Oscar are There Will Be Blood and No Country for Old Men, both very, very violent. Are we going to max out on that, do you think? I mean, does the public really want this level of violence?
Well, when you say does the public want it, I mean the public.
I mean, are those films I know they're doing well critically, but are they doing well at the box office?
They're doing the fact once they got nominated,
That helps.
that helps, and they're doing better. But another film you mentioned, Juno,
Yes.
is done better, I think, than any of the films that are nominated this
Yeah.
year. And that, of course, is a film that has
It's a lovely
no
film,
level
right,
of violence
right,
whatsoever.
right.
And Michael Clayton, I don't think
Not
has any,
particularly,
is not particularly violent. So.
But the other 2
Yeah,
are,
I mean, but the Coen brothers have this kind of quirky,
That's the
violent
thing.
style, and some of it's stylized violence. It's not, it's not gratuitously in a kind of negative sense.
sound like a man who likes his violence, or at least understands.
Yeah,
it.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, we tend in our country to have, we had a history of
for
being a
blood.
violent country and the way we were settled. So the movies reflect that culture. I know that when we rate our movies, some people accuse us of dismissing the violence in movies and getting too concerned about the sex or the language in
Yeah.
movies. And it's actually not true, but the fact of the matter is that by and large, when we do focus groups and we talk to people, they are more concerned, ironically, overall, about sex and nudity than they are
Really?
about violence. Now, that doesn't mean they should be, but I think it's a culture.
Yeah,
it's more
it
culturated
is.
in our society, and the ratings pretty much reflect the culture. But I will tell you that we've had movies rated NC-17, which is our toughest rating because of violence, as well as for sex and nudity. So we've talked about this. We take the issue of violence very seriously. And if you look at the descriptors now, they'll describe violence much more clearly than they used to, and with great detail.